Hello Year 10, welcome back to Food Technology. Let's start term 4. Unfortunately, we are still in lockdown and I know that this is not the way to run a food class. However, it is what it is and we have to make the best of the situation. So, what you are looking at is the stream of your Google Classroom and we're going to have a look at what I would like you to start on for this week. So here we go, classwork. And you'll see here that I have added a new heading and we have design task 1 and it's a student booklet, dry heat design task. This at the moment is in grey, it's scheduled to come on for tomorrow. So let's just open it up and have a look. Okay, waiting for it to load. Here we go. We have an assessment cover sheet, okay? So I need you to put in your name and your surname, and then we're going to have a look at the rubric. So the assessment rubric is here. We have 0 is insufficient evidence. So if you have not completed a particular task with this student booklet, you're not going to get marked for it, okay? So it's very straightforward, this assessment rubric. You can see clearly what you need to complete, and we're looking for 4s across the board to be at level. Okay, so in this particular booklet, this is going to be a design task. So you get to design a food product that you will be cooking in the classroom once we get back to school. Probably not the first week back, but within this term anyway. So we will be working towards that. This assessment rubric is divided into different sections. We have investigation, we have design, we have production plan and food order, we have production, and we have evaluation. So they are the sections that you will be graded on. Okay, so I suggest that you take some time to have a look at that. Okay, let's have a look at the actual document. Please put your name on here and let's get into it. So the learning intention is to understand how to use the design process to design, produce, and evaluate a food product. The students, your task is that you are required to research, design, produce, and evaluate a food product focusing on dry cooking methods such as grilling, frying, roasting, and baking. And the success measures, I have researched and investigated dry heat cooking methods and the equipment used for the task. I have applied the appropriate standard of food safety and presentation. Okay, so let's have a look at the design brief. Now, from your work, if you have done it, from design processes and design brief and that type of work, you would understand what this is talking about. So, your school canteen is running a competition for Year 10 students to design a homemade pastry product to be prepared at school and sold at the school canteen as a new menu item. You will need to make this pastry product in a short amount of time, as in one prac lesson, and use the school's kitchen. So that's our food tech kitchen. The pastry product needs to be designed so that it will appeal to a wide range of students with ages ranging from 12 to 18 years old. The school has also asked that the pastry product offers students a healthier options to its store-bought equivalent. Okay, the new pastry product must be easy for students to eat during lunch, so packaging will need to be considered. The finished pastry product can be served with a side and or sauces if required. Again, they would need to be easily consumed by kids, okay, or staff members really, from the school canteen. So you need to think about how you're going to plate that up. Will it go into a bag or will it be on a plate? Will you offer cutlery, etc., etc.? So the first thing that you're going to do is, with your knowledge and your understanding of what a design brief is from the previous work that we've done in term 3, what I need you to do is I need you to identify what are the constraints and the considerations to the design brief. Okay, you can do this a number of ways. You can highlight them as you read through, 2 different colours, and then you're going to record them in here, in this table, okay, on page 5. So very simple. So we're identifying what the constraints and the considerations are, and then we're going to make a list of them here. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to research and investigate dry heat cooking methods. Now, Again, if you had completed your work in this task in term 3, you would have a lot of this information as your general knowledge now. You can refer to that, or you can go back to your completed work for this particular topic and you can grab the information from there. So the students are required to explain the following cooking method and give an example of each. So what is baking? And then give me an example. So you can give me an example of a recipe that you might bake. So for example, it might be apple pie, it might be a muffin or a cake. Okay, so that's baking. That's an example of cooking something using the baking method. And then you're going to continue down the list. So stir frying, what is it? What is the definition of stir frying? Then give me an example. Grilling, what is the definition of grilling? Give me an example. Frying, what is the definition? Give me an example. Roasting, what is the definition? Give me an example. And then you're going to continue to move down here. So this is where it gets a little bit more interesting for you, and you'll need to start doing your investigating. So you are to conduct some research on pastry products and record all your research ideas, e.g. recipes, links and images in the box below. I would expect that this box would be developed, it'll be massive by the time you're finished, okay? So every time you go onto YouTube or you see a video or you go onto Google and you see an image or you find a recipe idea that is, going to meet the needs of the design brief, record it into this box, okay? So you're just going to keep copying links and stuff, and you might write something that you might say, I looked at this recipe on flourless chocolate cake, blah, blah, blah. Or, no, that's not a pastry item. You can't use that one. Oh, okay, so I found this recipe for, a rhubarb and apple pie. Okay, and then you're going to give me the link to that recipe. So this is where you're going to record all your investigating or your research, okay? Now, if you are a creative student and you like to kind of like have things set out a little bit differently, there is an app that you can get on Google extension that is called Coggle. And it does mind maps and things like that. So if you want to do some kind of fancy mind map app thing that you would like to use to show your investigation, then you can do that. You would just make sure that I have a link to that so that I can look at it and grade it for you. Okay, so then once you've done your investigating your research of your topic and possible recipe ideas, you need to then narrow it down to 3 different design options. Okay, and you're going to put those in here. So you're going to have design option 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and also in this, you're going to have the link to that particular recipe. You should know that when you are searching for a recipe, I suggest that you search for recipes that are in Australian metric, okay? So that is grams, okay, kilograms and grams, and milliliters and litres. Cups is fine. Don't go for a recipe that's got pounds or ounces because you need to then convert it to our metric system. So just save yourself a lot of trouble and try steering away from recipes from the US because that is where the problem is, okay? They don't have the same metric system as us, and it's going to be difficult for you to then convert that. The other thing you also need to know is that this particular recipe that you are going to make at school, okay, has to be for 2 people. So if you find a recipe that is for 8 people, then you need to divide that until you get it down to 2 serves. If you find a recipe that's for 6, the same thing. If you find a recipe, which most recipes are for 4 people, it's obviously going to be a lot easier to divide that just in half to then get your 2-person serve, okay? So you need to keep that in mind as well when you come up with your design options. Once you've made the design options, you've got your 3 different design options. Remember, they all have to meet the needs and the specifications of the design brief. You are then going to explain why you've chosen that particular design option over the other two options. And then you're going to write your justification in this box. You need to make sure that the justification links back to the design brief. Okay, so you might say something along the lines of, I'm choosing option 2 because it meets the needs of the design brief. It is a common flavour combination, and I believe it would be successful for students of the age group. And so there I have picked out a couple of those specifications from the design brief and have linked my answer back to that. Okay, my justification. So that's an example of that. Then what you're going to do is you will need to set up some evaluation criteria. You need to develop 3 evaluation criteria that you will use to measure the success of your finished product. The 3 different areas to evaluate are the sensory analysis, the design brief, and production. And this just helps you and prevents you from repeating the same or a similar type of evaluation criteria. So the first evaluation criteria needs to be focused on sensory analysis. So you could write a question that you're going to use to measure your product along the lines of, was the end product appealing to the customers from the school canteen? Okay. And then in your response, which would be completed after the production, you would say the end product was successful because, and then you would describe its appearance, which is a sensory analysis part, and why somebody would pick that. Okay. Then evaluation criteria 2 is going to be directly related back to design brief. So a standard evaluation criteria here would be explain how your end product met the needs of the design brief. Okay, and then you would be able to then elaborate on that once you've made the product. And then evaluation criteria number 3 is going to be about the actual production. So when we're back at school and you are cooking in the kitchen. So that would be referring to using your time well, time management, bench management, making sure that you're neat and tidy as you cook, processes, skills, equipment use. Did you use the right equipment for the right application, etc., etc.? So there are things to focus on in evaluation criteria number 3. All of these evaluation criteria will be completed, would be responded to after the production, okay, which is when we get back to class. So then what you're going to do is you need to actually put in a food order, okay? So here again, it's just a reminder. It has, I'm reminding you that your recipe will need to serve 2 people, okay? And then normally we do this in a pair, so you would need to pair up with somebody. At this stage, though, we don't know when we're getting back to school, and so I want you just to leave this student part blank, but I do want you to still do a food order. Now, what's going to happen is when we get back to class is we will look at who's completed what. You'll pair up, and then between the 2 of you, you'll decide which product you're going to make. Okay, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay, so you still need to have a food order for your individual product and your justified one. Okay, so the recipe the design option that you have selected up here in your justification is the one that you put a food order for. Okay, so supermarket is all the ingredients that come from the supermarket. Please don't tell me where to buy them, Coles, Aldi or Safeways or Woolies. I know where to buy stuff from the supermarket. I don't need you to designate. I actually had a student tell me which shops to get stuff from. So fruit and veg, so we split it up, and then we got meat and dairy products over here. Okay, so put in where you think it goes. And then we're going to have our production plan. So we're a little way off the production plan yet, but I'm just going to give you an overview, and there will be an additional, sheet for you to do your production plan, okay? So it will be located on Google Classroom. It's not there yet. And then what you're going to do is once you finish cooking and you'll go back and you will answer these 3 evaluation criteria that you've already made, and then you will just complete these last little evaluation questions, and then that is it. Okay, so that's design task 1. So what I would expect you to have finished this week, okay, I would expect you to have identified the constraints and considerations in the design brief. So I would consider this needs to be completed. I think the research and investigation of dry cooking methods can definitely be completed this week. Okay, and I think everybody definitely should be at investigating and doing some research on pastry products. Okay, so I would definitely want to see some evidence of that in this document at the end of this week, and possibly even, starting to think about your design options, okay? And then in the second week, I would expect you to have finished off your design options, your justification, and evaluation criteria, and probably a food order too. So we'll see. And what I'll do is in a video later in the week, I will put up the production plan template onto Google Classroom, and I'll actually do a separate instructional video on how to do one of those so that you don't get too confused. So we'll wait a few more days for that one. Probably by the end of this week, I'll have that one ready for you to go. But you can't do that anyway until you've decided what prac you're going to do or what recipe you're going to make. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. There's a little bit to do, but it's not hard, and I think most of you will find this probably a little bit more engaging and a lot more fun to try and, let's start researching some recipe ideas. Please make sure you fill in all the bits that you need to this booklet, because that will be part of the assessment rubric if you have a look on here. So you need to make sure you read that properly. So the first one is investigation. It says detailed explanation of cooking methods and 2 examples given for each method. So with this list here where it says example, you need to give 2 examples of that and a good definition of that particular cooking method. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there, and yeah, I think you guys will probably enjoy this, and the fact that you know that you're going to actually be cooking the product too, I think helps for, a level of interest. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.